What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a great conversation for you. We talked with Steven, and we've got some great insights about bid optimization. Before we get into the conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe. My mother-in-law told me to tell you that, so please like and subscribe. And then finally, if you want to have our agency Stone's Goods, come and check out your business. There's a Calendly in the description below. You know, got to throw a shameless plug in there. Anyways, let's get into it with Steven. All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, we've got Steven from Ad Labs. Steven, thanks for being here.
Absolutely glad to be here, Sean. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. We were just talking before we got on about a topic, and I said, okay, we can't talk about this anymore until I hit record, because you decide to throw a hot take out, and I'm a fan of hot takes. Let's just get it out of the way. What's the topic? What's the hot take?
So the topic is an unpopular opinion that increasing and decreasing your bids by a certain percentage based on whether or not that keyword is above or below your target ACOS is a huge mistake.
All right. Can you give me... Yeah, like why?
No, I'm not. You want me to explain it? I thought we were done. I thought I could just like...
Okay, yeah, you know what? Thanks.
Yeah.
Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Later, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's I mean, unfortunately, I should have prepared some visual material, so I apologize to the audience not having some examples and some Google Sheets and stuff. I've done it before on LinkedIn. I just was not able to pull it all together in time for the recording, but I will do my best to visually walk through math and formulas and verbally, and then hopefully you can visualize it. So the bottom line is that I would venture to say probably over 90% of the Amazon community, whether they're doing bid optimizations manually or if they are doing them via some third-party software tool, is using that logic as their core bid optimization, which is basically, I have a keyword for simple math. Let's say that the target ACOS is 30%. And they see that the ACOS on this keyword is currently at 60%. So they would say, it's double what I want it to be. So it would make sense to reduce my bid by 50% to reduce the ACOS by 50%, right? And that's usually the end of the logic. And now some people are probably going to say, well, not necessarily. You don't want to decrease it by that much that fast. You want to scale it down. Okay, I get all that. I'm just talking about how you came to the reason, how you came to that output that it should be reduced by 50% is actually incorrect. Before I give you the answer, I've got a question for you, Sean, to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. But let's say this: if you have a new, if you have an account that's running, and you're going to add a new keyword to it, what bid are you going to use for like that starting bid for like adding a new keyword?
Okay, so this is a little bit of a spicy take.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, we're still rolling this out, but we rolled this out on 2 accounts and it worked perfectly. So we rolled it out on pretty much every account at this point. We will use the exact same bid for all keywords in the same campaign. And then that makes it a lot easier to control placement performance, which is, so I would just be the same bid as every other keyword in that campaign is the answer.
And how do you determine that bid?
Well, usually we take a look at the bid range, high and low, and we take the average of all the low keywords from the suggested bid. And then we'll make all bids the low end of the suggested bid range average. And then that gives us plenty of room to experiment with placements and get placement performance we like. That's
really interesting. I don't think I've heard that quite explained that way before, but you're saying, so if you've got let's say you have one keyword that's like, so to stick with the 30% target ACOS, let's say you've got one keyword with 15% ACOS, 20% conversion rate, doing phenomenally well, highly relevant keyword, it's cranking. And then you've got another, maybe a little bit short, like maybe one keyword is like chocolate whey protein powder for blender bottle or something like that. And then another one is just protein powder. And maybe the protein powder one's got like, more expensive CPCs, lower performance. So let's say the other one is like only a 5% conversion rate. So you got one keyword doing really well with low ACoS and 20% conversion rate, and another one that's doing not as well, good enough, but not as good. You're saying you're going to give those the same bid?
So what I actually do is I would break out the high performer into a single keyword campaign.
Gotcha.
So you basically, the way we think about it is like a group. It's like I went to elementary school with these two kids that were just way smarter than everyone else. And it always bothered me because I was usually at the top of the class, but below those two guys.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is I would have the same work as everybody else in the class. And then those two guys would have this like different work that nobody else was doing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing with those single keyword campaigns. And then everything else gets treated the same way. For context, one of them went on to become a neurosurgeon. The other one has a PhD in cancer research. So I feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the general idea is we want to treat everything that is similar-ish the same way and then give special treatment to the stuff that just really doesn't make sense.
Gotcha.
Like to have any.
Gotcha. Okay. So then in that sense, pretty much everything within you're saying that everything within that campaign should have similar ACoS, like pretty much all those keywords. If you got 10 keywords in there, they should all have the same ACoS. So are you still going to increase the bid if they're all low ACoS? Are you going to increase the bids on all of them?
No, I'm going to increase the placement adjustment.
Placements only.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting. And that gets us into another thing, which is why, so how do you think through optimizing those placements? Is it basically if it's above or below the target ACoS, you're going to increase or decrease it by X%?
Yes.
Okay. So my hot take carries over to that too. So it's not only is it the wrong way to optimize bids, but also for placements. And there's a couple of reasons. I told you I was going to rabbit trail. We already are rabbit trailing quite a bit. The reason why I don't think that works for placement optimizations is because, number one, Amazon does not allow you to go below 0. So if you have a placement, for a lot of people, like product pages is usually above ACoS, above the target ACoS, even without any placement adjustments. It's already set to 0%, and you can't reduce it any further, and it's already at 100% ACoS. So because you can't go below 0, the only way to reduce the ACoS on product pages is to reduce the base bids for all of the keywords in that campaign. And then you're like, I'm going to lose my sales. Well, no, you increase for the other 2 placements. There's 3 placements in a campaign. It should pretty much always be the case, unless if your goal is to maximize sales within the target ACoS, then this should always be the case because it's the best way to do it. But one of those 3 placements will be the worst performer. So that gets it to 0% because you don't want to increase on that one. And the other 2 are performing better relative to the worst. So those get their increases based on how much better they are relative to the worst. We actually don't look at placement ACoS at all for campaign placements. And it's largely because, actually, if you go to our YouTube channel, just to do a quick little plug here, search That Amazon Ads Podcast, and there's an episode. If you search placement ACoS, you'll find it on our channel. But we talk for like 20, 30 minutes on that one topic of why we don't look at placement ACoS. So I want to spare the conversation here for a bit. But the summary is that these placements are multipliers on your bids. And so the way in which you're going to control that ACoS is really fundamentally at the bid level. And then the placements are really just relative to each other with how they should be adjusted. And it's not the ACoS itself, because like I said with that product page example, you can have a really high ACoS with no increase on it already. And so how you're going to optimize those placements is increasing relative to each other and decreasing relative to each other until you get to 0. Once you're at 0, that's the worst performance. That one gets set down. And then for all the bids within that campaign, those are going to be what you raise and lower to actually control individual keyword ACoS. In your case, you're kind of treating them all together. So we could treat it like a single keyword campaign to simplify this example. So if you have a single keyword campaign, going back to that first thing I was kicking off with, let's say you've got a 60% ACoS, your goal is 30%. And let's say all the placements are already set to 0%. So all the placements are at 0. We're not touching placements right now. You got this one keyword with a 60% ACoS. The goal is 30%. What are you going to do to that keyword or placement or campaign or whatever? How are you going to lower that ACoS?
Well, I would usually just kind of figure out what my ideal bid at the current conversion rate would be. Now, the problem is the conversion rate might change based on your bid.
True.
But yeah, I would probably just use the simple formula you were talking about and just inch it down over time. So instead of cutting my bid by 50% at once, I would probably cut it 5%, 7 times, or however many times, and then see if it got me to where I wanted to go.
Now here's the linchpin. Let's say your average CPC on this account has been $2, or for this campaign, this keyword, $2 CPC, 60% ACOS. Assuming conversion rate, everything stays the same. Like, you ideally want to be getting that cost per click cut down in half to like $1, right? And hopefully can maintain some visibility and sales and everything. So $1 is kind of the goal. Let's say that keyword is already at a 20-cent bid. For whatever reason, who knows how it got there? Maybe someone else changed the bid, who knows what. Are you still going to reduce that bid by 10, 15, 20%, whatever, when it's currently sitting at 20 cents? And the goal is $1?
No, because it's already below the goal.
Exactly. So the amount of times that this actually comes up is, I mean, probably over a third of the time, I would say. Over a third of the time when people are optimizing bids based on just if it's above or below my target ACOS, I'm going to increase or decrease the bid. Probably a third of the time, that bid is too low already because you've been doing that strategy and it's been reducing. The thing you got to keep in mind is when you change the bid, if I change the bid from $2 to $1 right now, like today, I change it from $2 to $1. What's the ACOS for the last 30 days? If it was previously 60% ACOS and I reduced the bid from $2 to $1, what is it now for the last 30 days?
Meaning, it's still the same.
Yeah, it doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
So that's what people forget is when the bid itself is not a historical data point. So only changing the bid is not like, you should be looking at the CPC for that date range. That's going to make a lot more sense. And so that's why I'm saying if it's a $2 CPC, you should be closer to a $1 CPC. So you kind of have this target CPC that you want to get to. And that's where the bid needs to go. But if your logic is simply reduce the bid, no matter what the bid is, the bid could be at 2 cents for all we know. Because if you've been having some logic that's this is why it happens with automations all the time, because your logic is like reduce the bid by 5, 10%, whatever, every single day until we get there. Well, it's like after a week, it's reduced it, 7 times or whatever. So the bid's already way too low, but the system is like, oh, the ACOS is still high. So I'm going to continue cutting until you end up at a point where it's 2 cents now. And now you're not getting any visibility. So now it's going to jump back into this other criteria where it's like, all right, we got to start increasing the bid. And, and then you just go all the way back up and then same thing can happen. Your target goal is $1 CPC. It's currently back to a $2 bid, but, it's not very high spend yet or high ACOS quite yet, at least not on whatever time frame you're looking at. So it's like the last 7 days, it's atrocious because you just cranked the bid all the way back up to $2. But it's like, but over a 30-day time frame, it's low visibility or whatever. So we're going to continue increasing the bid. So it's just like, it's the worst of both worlds. So the bottom line is that sometimes, like I'll give you one final example here, and hopefully I'm not losing the audience already. But let's say you've got a low visibility keyword. You know that on average in your account, you can afford $1. Here's a keyword that just like hasn't had any clicks in the last, I don't care, 60, 90 days, whatever. It's got no clicks. It's relevant. Generally speaking, people are going to want to increase the bid, right? Would you agree, like increase bids on low visibility? Is that kind of the default? Yeah. But let's say the bid is already at $100. Do you still want to be increasing that bid?
No.
Yeah, I'm speaking in hyperboles a bit here to prove the point. But I see this all the time with automations with managers. You see bids at $20, $25 all the time because the logic is simply just increasing. And sometimes that bid is just that keyword's not getting traffic, not because the bid's not high enough. It's just because like the traffic's going to another campaign, or maybe it's just a low volume keyword. A lot of times it's just a lower volume keyword or whatever, or the traffic's getting split across a few campaigns. But bottom line is, we can use common sense to say we can't afford a $100 bid. So we should not continue increasing there. In fact, even though it's currently at $100, we should reduce that bid, because if all it's going to take, maybe it's a keyword that only gets searched once a month. This only gets searched once a month, so we only get 1 click a month. It's perpetually going to be low visibility. That does not mean we should be perpetually increasing our bids to infinity and beyond. All it's going to take is one other foolish seller to make that same mistake of bidding $100 on the same search term, and now we've got a second price auction in place, and we're both going to be paying $100 CPCs. And I've seen this happen too, where suddenly someone's CPC spikes from $1 to like $20 overnight, and they're like, what the heck happened? They look at the bid history. That keyword was sitting at $20 for months. They just never paid that price before, and they're like, what happened? And it's like, some other person made the same foolish mistake you did. You weren't protecting that. So bottom line is that low visibility keywords should sometimes have their bids reduced if the bid is just too high. And high ACOS keywords should sometimes have their bids increased if the bid was somehow got way too low. Why would that bid get way too low below that $1 target CPC? One is like just bad automations. Another thing is that maybe the performance has just improved since the last period. Maybe previously the ACOS was 200%. You pulled that bid down to 50 cents, and now it's doing better. Now the ACOS has come down. It's still high, but like it's not as high as it was within the last 30, 60-day time frame that you were looking at it. You can actually afford $1. Or maybe your placements are changing. Lots of things that can factor into this. But the whole kind of point I'm trying to make here is what you should be doing to get to the right answer of the right bid is when it comes to bid optimizations, you need to calculate what the bid should be, and then you work your way towards that bid. And the way in which you're going to do that is through the revenue per click method. I think, are you familiar with that one, Sean? I think you've,
yeah. Very,
so that's kind of, there's a whole other episode on our podcast titled Revenue Per Click, or just type in RPC, you'll find it. But the bottom line here is that, and I know I've said bottom line like 20 times, and I can't have 20 bottom lines, can I? But what you want to figure out is to hit the target ACOS, if your target ACOS is 30%, you need to hit a 30% ratio of spend to sales. Wow, that sounds like mind-blowing, right? But what we're trying to accomplish is that at a click-by-click basis. So a 30% CPC to RPC ratio, because that is spend over sales, on a click-by-click basis. We're going to do the same thing for the placements. Trying to hit that CPC to RPC ratio is what we're going towards. So you can use RPC to calculate what the bid should be. And then, yes, you're then going to adjust the bids towards that. And you can use those increments. So if the target CPC really is $1 and it's currently sitting the bid's at $2, yes, you're going to have to pull that bid down by 50% in that case. You are probably going to want to step it down in increments of 10, 15, 20%, whatever, depending on how quickly you're trying to move the needle on the business. Yeah, that's kind of my hot take, is that calculating what the bid should be with RPC, and then same thing kind of comes to these placements, and then adjusting incrementally towards that goal is going to be better than just simply saying always reduce bids on high cost keywords and always increase bids on low visibility keywords. It's much better to work towards a target CPC rather than just simply increase or decrease by X%.
Yeah, I completely agree. The more you explained your take, the more I was like, oh, actually, I completely agree. We stopped using any automations for bid placements or for keyword bids or for placements about 6 months ago, and it made everything a lot more simple.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, we still use automations for other things, but that was one of those things where it was just a complete no-brainer as soon as we did it. So yeah, completely agree. This is a hot take, but it also just makes so much sense. And yeah, I highly recommend the revenue per click approach. That is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. And a lot of people it's funny. A lot of people, they haven't heard of revenue per click before. And after they like watch our episode or do some research on it, they're going to really get in line with that and prefer that approach and realize it makes a world of difference on their account. Other people might just not be aware of it or might disagree with it. But when they're optimizing things without realizing it, they're going through a long-winded roundabout way of coming out to the same result that revenue per click could have just gotten them to right away. But when they're just like increasing and decreasing, all they're doing is experimenting with a whole bunch of different things and wasting several weeks or months of inefficient spend or missing visibility until they finally result at the same output. But the answer is that you cannot, it is impossible to hit a 30% ACOS or whatever the goal is. It is impossible to hit the target ACOS without having the target CPC in line with the revenue per click, because of just virtue of math. It's like at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So I'm just saying, hey, you can calculate what the CPC should be and then just work towards that right away. Or you can disagree with me and you can say, I don't like the RPC method. I like my method of just raising and lowering bids somewhat randomly until finally it's at the right ACOS, which coincidentally will be this $1 CPC or whatever the target CPC was. Like you can't you can't escape the math. They're like, that's just what ACOS is CPC divided by RPC.
Yeah, or it's what ROAS is or anything else. Like
Yeah.
you're just taking a look at your historical data and saying, okay, if everything else was true for the next period of time, what would the ideal outcome be? And then just calculating that number. It's like you have the answer. It's sitting right there in front of you. You just kind of need to, and like RPC, the only thing that it doesn't take into account is future trends. So you won't necessarily know what your future revenue per click might be because it might be August 31st. And then on September 1st, people start shopping for Halloween products. So your old revenue per click suddenly
Very
starts
true.
to become
Yeah.
a little bit irrelevant. But aside from that, like call it 70+% of the year, you can use a revenue per click formula and be highly accurate the entire time.
And to your point, in those cases, I just like estimate an increase, right? So if I'm expecting a 10 to 20% pickup in conversion, then I'm just going to translate that to a 10 to 20% higher RPC, or just set a 10 to 20% higher target ACOS, and it will actualize as what I was actually wanting to get to.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. Highly agree. Yeah. I think this is
another time, Sean. We'll have to do another episode where I try to convince you of using RPC in placements and how that works, because that's basically where it's going to come down to. Is we're going to start looking at the revenue per click by placement. And earlier I was saying conversion rate, but what I actually meant was revenue per click. I just say conversion rate because more people know what that is. But conversion rate and revenue per click are virtually synonymous. Only one is orders divided by clicks expressed as a percentage. The other is sales divided by clicks expressed as a dollar amount. But it's the orders and sales. It's the same thing. Just one's a percent, one's a dollar amount. So I like the revenue per click because it is conversion rate essentially. And my goal is to increase conversion rate, right? And where things are converting better, I want to increase my spend. And where things are converting not as good, I want to reduce my spend. And I'm just using revenue per click to guide me through that. And so typically you're going to see top of search generally performs 50% to 100% better than product pages on an average account, which means that revenue per click, let's just say on product pages, that revenue per click is $3. For top of search, it's $6. Then that means we can afford twice the bid, twice the CPC. So we're going to increase for product pages, increase for top of search by 100%. And then the only way to reduce the product page spend if it's over your target ACOS is to reduce the base bid. So that's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah. That is what we do.
Okay.
I have a whole calculator that we use to make sure that is exactly what's going on. And we even have like just sales divided by clicks, so you get your own RPC right away. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, then never mind.
No, I would love to have you back on and listen to any of your other hot takes, because this was a good one.
We also do it for day parting. We break up the day into like 2-hour blocks, 4-hour blocks, wherever we have the data confidence. Look at the revenue per click for those periods of time. So a lot of times it's during business hours. We're generally seeing like 10 to 20% higher conversion rates in the middle of the day when people are probably just jumping on Amazon real quick to buy something on their lunch break or something, or their coffee break, whatever. And they're on mobile too, where they can't open a ton of tabs. They're just going to try to find the first product with good reviews within their price range, and they're just going to buy it. Versus in the evenings, there's a lot more traffic on Amazon that a lot of people make the mistake of chasing the traffic rather than the high converting traffic specifically. So in the evenings, people got a lot more time on their hands. They're browsing, they're exploring, they're on desktop, they're opening up 10 different tabs to compare a bunch of different products. They're more picky. And so you're going to see lower conversion rates in the evening. So same method, lots of ways you can deploy that RPC strategy to just maximize your revenue.
Interesting. Very interesting. You know what? We'll have to have you back. I would love to talk more about day parting.
Let's do it.
But between now and then, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Stephen Knock, and we use the whole RPC bidding strategy for calculating bids, placements, everything like that within our software. Ad Labs, it's a non-automation software. It's just a big bid calculator. So you can use that, see how the results are coming out, and see if you kind of agree with the math as it actually plays out in your account.
Nice, nice. It's Stephen, Stephen Noch. I can attest a lot of the stuff he posts on LinkedIn is very interesting. That's how I reached out to Stephen to have him on here. And yeah, Stephen, thanks again for being here. Thanks for bringing your A game. And to everyone else, see you next time.
Thank you.